The rain fell steadily that October evening, drumming against the windshield of Michael Harrison's Seton as he drove through the empty streets. At 58, Michael had built a successful consulting firm from nothing, but lately the achievement felt hollow. His wife had passed 3 years ago. His daughter lived overseas, and most nights he worked late just to avoid going home to silence. Tonight was different only because the weather had forced him to leave early. The streets were flooding, and even his determination couldn't keep him at the office. As he turned onto Riverside Avenue, his headlights caught a figure standing at the edge of the road. A young woman, maybe in her late 20s, with long blonde hair plastered against her beige dress. She was holding a small child, a little girl in a pink dress who couldn't have been more than 4 years old. They were both completely soaked. Michael's first instinct was to keep driving. The city was full of situations that weren't his concern, but something made him slow down. Perhaps it was the way the woman stood there, not frantically waving, just waiting, hoping. He pulled over, and immediately the woman rushed to his window. Her face was pale, streaked with rain and tears. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "Please, my child is sick. The hospital is just up the road, but I can't. I've been walking, and she's getting worse." Michael looked at the little girl in her arms. The child's face was flushed with fever, her small body limp against her mother's shoulder. In that moment, he saw his own daughter at that age, remembered the panic of childhood illnesses, the desperate need to make everything right. "Get in," he said, unlocking the doors. The woman's name was Emma. As they drove, she explained in rushed, grateful sentences. Her car had broken down 2 miles back. Her phone was dead. Her daughter, Lily, had been running a fever all day, but in the last hour it had spiked. She'd been walking, carrying her child, praying someone would stop. "Thank you," she kept saying. "Thank you so much." Michael drove carefully through the flooded streets, his hands steady on the wheel. "How old is she?" "4. She just turned 4 in August." Emma stroked her daughter's damp hair. "She's everything to me." Her father. "He's not in the picture. It's just us." Something in those words resonated with Michael. Just us. How many times had he felt that way since Margaret died? At the hospital, he didn't just drop them off. He parked and walked them inside, staying while Emma filled out forms with shaking hands. When she realized she'd left her wallet in her broken-down car, Michael quietly handed his credit card to the registration clerk. "You don't have to," Emma protested. "I know," he said simply. 3 hours later, little Lily was resting comfortably in a pediatric bed. The fever had been a severe ear infection, now being treated with antibiotics. The doctor said Emma had been right to bring her in when she did. Michael sat in the waiting room, and he wasn't entirely sure why. He could have left after the first hour, but he'd stayed. Maybe it was because Emma had no one else. Maybe it was because he knew what it felt like to face frightening moments alone. When Emma finally came out, her eyes were red but relieved. "She's going to be fine. They want to keep her overnight for observation. But she's already feeling better." "That's wonderful," Michael said, and he meant it. "I can't thank you enough for what you did. The ride, the hospital bill, I'll pay you back." "I don't know how yet, but I will." Michael shook his head. "There's no debt here. Just be well, both of you." But Emma wouldn't let it go. Over the next few weeks, she found ways to reach out. She'd gotten his business card from his credit card receipt. First, a heartfelt thank you note arrived at his office. Then she insisted on making him dinner to show her gratitude. Michael almost declined. He wasn't used to this anymore, to people caring, to connection. But something told him to say yes. The dinner was simple, spaghetti in Emma's small apartment, with Lily coloring at the table, fully recovered and chattering happily. It was modest and warm, and Michael realized it was the first home-cooked meal he'd had in someone else's home since Margaret died. "You saved us that night," Emma said quietly as Lily showed Michael her drawings. "I don't just mean the ride or the money. I mean, I'd been so scared and you were kind. Real kindness is rarer than people think." Michael thought about that. "I think we all get caught up in our own worlds," he said. "I know I did. For a long time after my wife passed, I just went through the motions." Emma nodded. "I understand that. After Lily's father left, I felt like I was just surviving, not living." Over the following months, an unexpected friendship grew. Michael found himself stopping by, sometimes with groceries or books for Lily. Emma would invite him for dinner, and they'd talk about everything and nothing. She told him about her dreams of going back to school to become a nurse. He told her about his daughter in London and how he wished they were closer. One evening, as they watched Lily play in the small courtyard outside Emma's apartment, Emma said, "You know, you gave me more than help that night. You gave me hope. Hope that there are still good people. That Lily and I aren't completely alone in this world." Michael felt his eyes grow warm. "You gave me something too," he said. "You reminded me what matters. Not the business deals or the late nights at the office. This connection, caring about someone." Emma smiled and took his hand just for a moment. A gesture of friendship, of gratitude, of shared understanding. As the seasons changed and winter approached, Michael found his life had color again. He still worked, still ran his company, but now there were Sunday dinners with Emma and Lily, trips to the zoo helping with homework. He became Uncle Michael, a fixture in their lives, and when Emma finally enrolled in nursing school, Michael was there to celebrate. When Lily drew a picture of the three of them and gave it to him as a gift, he framed it and put it on his desk. Sometimes the most profound changes in our lives come from the simplest acts of kindness. A car stopping in the rain, a hand extended to a stranger, a choice to see another person's need and respond with humanity. Michael had spent years building a successful life, but it took a desperate young mother and her sick child to teach him what success really meant. It meant showing up. It meant caring. It meant letting people in even when you're scared of losing them. That rainy October night had been the beginning of something beautiful. Not romance, but something equally precious, a chosen family, built on kindness, gratitude, and the simple truth that none of us are meant to walk through this world alone. And whenever it rained, Michael would remember that moment, that choice to stop, and he would smile. Because sometimes, in helping others, we save ourselves.